The incident began with a phone call. Not from family, not from friends, but from a woman named Vanessa. It was Friday afternoon. I was sitting in my school's design studio when Malcolm's phone kept buzzing. He glanced at the screen and frowned. Unknown number. Not answering? Probably an ad. He was about to decline it, but for some reason he pressed answer instead. I kept my head down, adjusting my design, only half listening. Yes, this is Malcolm. I'm sorry, you must have the wrong person. He was about to hang up. The other end said something very quickly. Malcolm slowly stood up. His expression changed. You mean, my photo? Which campaign? Okay, I'll come. He hung up. I looked up. What's going on? Malcolm was still staring at his phone screen. A modeling agency just called. I thought I'd misheard. What agency? They said they saw the photo set I did for the internship program. And they want to meet me. I laughed. Isn't that good news? Malcolm still didn't smile. But I'm not a model. So go meet them. I don't know. I rested my chin on my hand, looking at him. You're scared. Yeah. Of what? He was quiet for a few seconds. I'm scared my life will change. I burst out laughing. Malcolm. Sometimes change isn't a bad thing. He looked at me. You really think I should go? I think you should give yourself a chance. Malcolm nodded. Okay. If you come with me. Of course. 2 days later, we went to the agency's office in Midtown Manhattan. A tall glass building. A gleaming reception lobby. I had never set foot in a place so upscale. A receptionist led us up to the 14th floor. Vanessa was already waiting. She looked to be in her early 30s. Dressed very professionally. The moment Malcolm walked in, she smiled. I knew I wasn't wrong. Malcolm looked a little flustered. Hello. Vanessa handed him a portfolio. Inside were dozens of ad campaigns. You have a very distinctive face. Malcolm laughed. Embarrassed. Thank you. No. Vanessa shook her head. I'm not just saying that to be nice. I've been in this business 15 years. I can see potential. Malcolm looked at me as if asking for help. I just nodded slightly, signaling him to stay calm. After nearly an hour of conversation, Vanessa suggested Malcolm do a test shoot. No contract, no obligation, just a trial. On the way back to school, Malcolm barely spoke. Not until the subway crossed the Manhattan Bridge did he quietly ask, What do you think? Why are you asking me? Because your opinion matters. I smiled. I think you should try it. What if I fail? Then you're still Malcolm, the person I love. He turned to look at me. His eyes softened. Thank you. The test shoot took place that weekend. I wasn't allowed into the studio, so I just sat at the cafe across the street. 3 hours, then 4 hours. Late in the afternoon, Malcolm finally came out. He opened the cafe door. His hair was a bit messed up. His shirt still had a thin layer of makeup powder on it. I waved. How did it go? He sat down. Silence. I blinked. That bad? Malcolm suddenly laughed. They want me to sign a contract. I jumped to my feet. Really? Yeah. I hugged him right there in the middle of the cafe. I knew it. Malcolm laughed loudly. Wait. You're happier than I am. Of course. Why? I let go of him. Because I always see something in you that you don't see yourself. What is it? You're special. Malcolm shook his head. No. Yes. No. Don't argue. He laughed. Fine. My boyfriend wins. In the end, Malcolm still didn't sign right away. He asked for a week to think it over. That whole week, we talked about the future more than ever before. One evening, we spread a blanket out on the grass in Riverside Park. Planes drifted across the sky. The city in the distance still glowed bright. Malcolm held my hand. If I accept it, life could be very different. I know. I might be busy. Yeah. I might have to travel a lot. Yeah. Maybe. He hesitated. I won't have as much time as I do now. I turned to look at him. Malcolm. Yeah. I love you. Not because you have a lot of free time. Not because you study marketing. Not because you might become a model either. I love who you are. So whatever path you choose, I'll still be standing beside you. Malcolm didn't say anything. He just lifted my hand and kissed the back of it gently. Then he smiled. If one day I really do end up on a billboard, the first person I'll want to show off to will still be you. I laughed, nudging his shoulder. Don't talk like that's actually going to happen. We both laughed. Neither of us knew that it wasn't a joke. It was a prophecy. One that would come true faster than either of us could have imagined. Malcolm signed the contract on the very day he received his diploma. That morning, he wore his school's dark blue graduation gown, adjusting his cap every 5 minutes because it kept slipping crooked. That afternoon, he sat in Vanessa's office, signing his name on a contract more than 30 pages thick. Everything happened on the same day, as if the door to his college years had just closed while the door to an entirely different life had opened. Graduation was packed that day. The school grounds were bright with flags and flowers. Parents filled every row of seats. Camera shutters clicked nonstop. I pushed through the crowd looking for Malcolm. He was standing with some classmates. The moment he saw me, he raised his hand. Brady! I ran over. Before I could say anything, Malcolm pulled me into a hug. You came. I promised I would. He smiled brightly. It was the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. Not a smile for a photo. Not a smile for the camera. But a smile only for me. The ceremony lasted nearly 2 hours. I sat in the stands, barely taking my eyes off Malcolm. When his name was called, I clapped the loudest. Maybe I was also the proudest. After the ceremony, we took a lot of photos. Some in front of Butler Library. Some under the maple trees. Some in front of a big banner that read, "Congratulations, class of 20XX. Malcolm suddenly said, "Switch places." What? Give me the camera. He took the camera and pulled me to stand in the afternoon sun. Why? I want to take your picture. It's your graduation day. I know. But I want to remember the face of the person who's been by my side through all these college years. I laughed. You always love taking pictures of me. Malcolm raised the camera. Because you're always my favorite photo. I didn't know how to respond. I just smiled. The shutter clicked. Click. One more moment captured. That night, we celebrated at a small pizza place near school. Not fancy. Not expensive. But a place we'd been to more times than we could count. The owner burst out laughing the moment he saw Malcolm. You finally graduated. Malcolm smiled. Yes. And this young man? He pointed at me. 2 more years. Good. Make sure you bring him back here to celebrate too. We both laughed. While waiting for the pizza, Malcolm pulled a small box out of his backpack. For you. I was surprised. What is it? Open it. Inside was a brown leather wallet. Not an expensive item, but the inside flap had an engraving. Wherever life takes us, come home to me. I read it over and over. My throat tightened. You. Malcolm looked at me. Don't cry. I'm not crying. You're about to. I laughed. You guess well. Of course. I'm your boyfriend. I held the wallet tight. I'll keep it forever. Malcolm didn't know that years later, that wallet would still always be in my pocket. Even on the morning I saw him on billboards all over New York. After graduation, Malcolm moved into a small rented apartment in Manhattan, near his new agency. I still lived in the dorms. For the first time since we'd met, we could no longer see each other every day. The distance was only about 30 minutes by subway, but it felt entirely different. The first night without Malcolm at school, I instinctively picked up my phone to text, "Dinner tonight?" Then I remembered he wasn't here anymore. I deleted the message, replaced it with, "How was today?" 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A photo. Malcolm sitting on the floor of his new apartment, surrounded by dozens of unopened boxes. With a message, "Miss you so much." I smiled. I sent back a photo of my instant noodles. Miss my personal chef more. Less than a minute later, a video call came in. I picked up. The moment Malcolm saw me, he laughed. I bet you're eating noodles again. Yep. Not allowed. I'm lazy. I'll come tomorrow. It's far. 30 minutes. I just moved. Still coming. I rested my chin on my hand, watching him. You spoil me too much. Malcolm shook his head slightly. No. I'm just taking care of the person I love. I looked at the screen and suddenly realized distance itself wasn't scary. What's scary is when two people stop wanting to move toward each other. Luckily, back then we still always chose to move toward each other. But life after graduation was no longer as simple as college. Meetings, projects, business trips, unexpected opportunities. They were all quietly showing up. And little by little, they began pulling Malcolm closer to the spotlight of fame. While I was still just a student trying to finish my final assignments, the distance between us was no longer measured in subway stops. I first started noticing Malcolm's life changing on a Wednesday evening. That used to be our standing date night. No matter how busy, Wednesday nights were for each other. No phones, no work, no canceling allowed. At least, that's how it used to be. I got out of class early, took the subway to Manhattan, and stopped by the bakery near Malcolm's apartment to buy his favorite blueberry cheesecake. Just as I stepped out of the station, my phone rang. Malcolm calling. I smiled. Coming down to meet me? There was silence for a few seconds on the other end. Then Malcolm spoke, his voice full of guilt. I'm sorry. Just 4 words. But something in me sank immediately. What's wrong? The agency just called. Okay. They need me at the studio right now. Now? Yeah. The ad campaign schedule changed. I looked down at the box of cake in my hand. You have to go? I tried to reschedule. They said no. I tried to keep my voice normal. It's okay. Just go up to the apartment. I'll be back as soon as I can. Okay. I hung up. Told myself it was just this once. What's one time? 3 hours later. I was still sitting alone on the sofa. The cheesecake untouched. The clock read nearly 11. My phone lit up. Sorry, might not be done until 1 a.m. I looked at the message, typed a long reply, then deleted it. On my first day, I excitedly called Malcolm. Guess what? You got the job? How did you know? I knew you'd get it. Celebrate tonight? Malcolm went quiet. That pause again. The pause I was starting to hate more and more. I have a shoot scheduled. Tonight too. Yeah. Tomorrow then? I looked out through the office window. The New York sky was turning orange. Okay. Tomorrow. Then the day after. Then the weekend. In the end, that celebration dinner never happened. Malcolm's career took off faster than even he expected. At first it was just fashion catalogs. Then watch ads. Then perfume. Then major brands started reaching out. His phone rang nonstop. His inbox overflowed. His schedule packed tight. Some days he'd fly to Chicago in the morning. Los Angeles by afternoon. Back in New York 2 days later. I watched him grow more and more exhausted. Once, when he fell asleep on the sofa, I noticed the dark circles under his eyes for the first time. I gently stroked his hair. Maybe we should take a break for a while? Malcolm opened his eyes. Can't. Why? Opportunities don't wait for anyone. But your health. He took my hand. Just a few more years. I want to push through. So that later, we can have a better life. I looked at the man in front of me. I knew he was trying so hard for both our futures. But I was also starting to be afraid. Because the thing stealing Malcolm away from me wasn't another person. It was his own dreams. And the scariest part was, I couldn't hate those dreams. Because I was the one who told him first. Give yourself a chance. I never imagined that chance would carry Malcolm so high that one day I'd have to look up at him from the ground. Things truly changed the following spring. It was a Monday morning. I was adjusting a design for an ad campaign when my coworker Emma suddenly ran over to my desk. Brady, what? Have you seen this? She put her phone in front of me. On the screen was an article from a fashion magazine. The headline was huge. Malcolm Reed, the most sought-after new face of the year. I froze. Emma had no idea I was dating Malcolm. She excitedly pulled up a chair. He's so handsome. I tried to stay calm. Yeah. I heard he originally studied marketing. Really? Yep. The article says he was discovered totally by chance. I looked at the screen. In the interview, Malcolm talked about how one test shoot changed his life. He thanked Vanessa, thanked the agency that gave him his first chance, thanked everyone who'd walked this path with him. I read the whole thing. Nothing wrong with it. Just that I wasn't in it. I immediately felt childish for thinking that. It was a career interview, not a love letter. He had no reason to mention his boyfriend. But the human heart isn't logical. Still hurt, even though my mind understood it was completely normal. That night, Malcolm stopped by my apartment. Almost midnight, I opened the door. He was still wearing the suit from his shoot, his hair a bit messy, his face full of exhaustion. I'm sorry. Still the first thing he said. I laughed. I think you should change your greeting. Malcolm laughed too. Okay. He stepped in. I missed you. I hugged him. The familiar scent of his cologne mixed with coffee. Still Malcolm. Just thinner than before. Have you eaten? I asked. He shook his head. I went to the kitchen to make noodles. While waiting for the water to boil, Malcolm wandered around my small apartment. His eyes stopped on the wall full of photos. College photos, Christmas photos, Central Park photos, graduation photos. He stepped closer, gently touched one photo. It was the one he'd taken of me under the maple trees senior year. You still have it, he said softly. I looked over. Of course. That's my favorite photo. Malcolm turned around. Not one of the two of us? I shook my head. No. Why? Because. I smiled. Through your eyes in that photo, I could see just how loved I was. Malcolm stood still, then suddenly came and hugged me from behind. I still love you like I did back then. I leaned my head against his shoulder. I know, and I truly believe that. But love sometimes isn't enough to keep two people together. A month later, Malcolm got invited to Milan for 4 weeks. It was a huge opportunity, one that could push his name onto the international market. The night he told me, we sat on the balcony of his apartment. The city below still hadn't gone to sleep. I think you should go, I said first. Malcolm looked at me. I haven't even asked yet. You want to go? He sighed. Yeah. Then go. But. No buts. I smiled. I don't want you to regret it later. Malcolm took my hand. What about you? What about me? Will you regret it? I was quiet for a moment, then answered honestly. I'll miss you. A lot. Malcolm pulled me into his arms. I promise. Just 4 weeks. I'll call you every day. Every single night. I laughed. I'll be checking. He held up 3 fingers. Swear. The first week in Milan. Malcolm kept his promise. Every morning I got a photo of an espresso. Every night a video call. He told me about the cobblestone streets. 12-hour shoots. Pasta so good he wanted to bring me over just to try it. His eyes stopped on the wall full of photos. College photos, Christmas photos, Central Park photos, graduation photos. He stepped closer, gently touched one photo. It was the one he'd taken of me under the maple trees senior year. You still have it, he said softly. I looked over. Of course. That's my favorite photo. Malcolm turned around. Not one of the two of us? I shook my head. No. Why? Because. I smiled. Through your eyes in that photo, I could see just how loved I was. Malcolm stood still, then suddenly came and hugged me from behind. I still love you like I did back then. I leaned my head against his shoulder. I know, and I truly believe that. But love sometimes isn't enough to keep two people together. A month later, Malcolm got invited to Milan for 4 weeks. It was a huge opportunity, one that could push his name onto the international market. The night he told me, we sat on the balcony of his apartment. The city below still hadn't gone to sleep. "I think you should go," I said first. Malcolm looked at me. "I haven't even asked yet." "You want to go?" He sighed. "Yeah." "Then go." "But." "No buts." I smiled. "I don't want you to regret it later." Malcolm took my hand. "What about you? What about me? Will you regret it?" I was quiet for a moment, then answered honestly. "I'll miss you. A lot." Malcolm pulled me into his arms. "I promise. Just 4 weeks. I'll call you every day. Every single night." I laughed. "I'll be checking." He held up 3 fingers. "Swear." The first week in Milan, Malcolm kept his promise. Every morning I got a photo of an espresso. Every night a video call. He told me about the cobblestone streets. 12-hour shoots. Pasta so good he wanted to bring me over just to try it. I watched his face through the screen, even half a world apart. I still felt close. Then the second week came. The calls got shorter. "I'm about to go into a shoot. I'm in the car. I'll call you back." Third week. Some days we only exchanged a few lines of text. Fourth week. Malcolm went silent for almost 2 days. I called. No answer. I texted. No reply. Not until the evening of the third day did he call. His face appeared on screen. Exhausted. Hoarse voice. "I'm sorry. My phone broke. And the schedule's been insane." I looked at him for a long time. Wanted to be angry. Wanted to blame him. But in the end I just asked, "Are you okay?" Malcolm smiled. "Yeah. Just. I miss home." For the first time in a long while, he used the word home. Not the apartment in Manhattan. Not the hotel in Milan. But wherever I was. I smiled. "I'll be waiting for you." But I had no idea that when Malcolm came back to New York, he wouldn't just be a rising model anymore. He'd become a name the whole city knew. And just a few months later, his face would appear on massive billboards all over New York. Exactly like that joke we'd made years ago. Except for one thing. When it happened, Malcolm and I would no longer be standing side by side. Malcolm came back to New York on a rainy afternoon. I took a half-day off work to pick him up at the airport. It had been over a month since we'd last seen each other. I stood at the arrivals area for almost 40 minutes. Every time the automatic doors opened, my heart raced. Then finally, I saw him, Malcolm pulling a black suitcase behind him. A jacket draped over one arm, thinner than before, but the same smile. The moment he saw me, he dropped the suitcase handle, ran over, hugged me tight, so tight I could barely breathe. "I missed you." His voice was hoarse. I smiled. "Me too." We stood there hugging in the middle of the crowd, not caring who saw, not caring about anything else. In that moment I thought, all the distance was finally over. I was wrong. On the way back to Manhattan, Malcolm's phone rang nonstop. 1 call, 2 calls, 5 calls, then texts, emails, notifications. He kept apologizing. "Give me 1 second. Sorry. Just a minute." I nodded, said nothing. But by the time the train crossed the East River, I quietly asked, "Is it like this all the time now?" Malcolm glanced at his screen, then turned off his phone. "Yeah. Tired. Very." "Then why not rest?" He looked out the window. "Because if I stop, someone else will move ahead of me." That was the first time I'd ever heard Malcolm talk like that. Back in college, he always used to say, "It's okay to go slow, as long as we're happy." Now, he was starting to talk about not being allowed to slow down. I knew he himself hadn't changed. It was just that the world around him had changed too fast. 2 weeks later, Vanessa called Malcolm into the office. That night, he came to my apartment with a strange look on his face. "Are you busy?" "No. I want to tell you something." We sat down on the sofa. Malcolm pulled a folder out of his bag, set it on the table. "What's this?" "A contract." "A new one?" "Yeah." I opened it. Right on the first page was the name of a famous luxury fashion brand. Below it, a number I had to read twice. This much money? I looked up. Malcolm laughed weakly. I thought they'd made a mistake too. All for one campaign? Yeah. I looked at him. Are you going to take it? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked back. Hugged me tight. So tight I could barely breathe. I missed you. His voice was hoarse. I smiled. Me too. We stood there hugging in the middle of the crowd. Not caring who saw. Not caring about anything else. In that moment, I thought, all the distance was finally over. I was wrong. On the way back to Manhattan, Malcolm's phone rang nonstop. 1 call, 2 calls, 5 calls, then texts, emails, notifications. He kept apologizing. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Just a minute. I nodded, said nothing. But by the time the train crossed the East River, I quietly asked, is it like this all the time now? Malcolm glanced at his screen, then turned off his phone. Yeah. Tired. Very. Then why not rest? He looked out the window. Because if I stop, someone else will move ahead of me. That was the first time I'd ever heard Malcolm talk like that. Back in college, he always used to say, it's okay to go slow, as long as we're happy. Now, he was starting to talk about not being allowed to slow down. I knew he himself hadn't changed. It was just that the world around him had changed too fast. 2 weeks later, Vanessa called Malcolm into the office. That night, he came to my apartment with a strange look on his face. Are you busy? No. I want to tell you something. We sat down on the sofa. Malcolm pulled a folder out of his bag. Set it on the table. What's this? A contract. A new one. Yeah. I opened it. Right on the first page was the name of a famous luxury fashion brand. Below it, a number I had to read twice. This much money? I looked up. Malcolm laughed weakly. I thought they'd made a mistake too. All for one campaign? Yeah. I looked at him. Are you going to take it? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked back. If it were you, would you take it? I thought for a long time, then nodded. Yes. Why? Because this is an opportunity not everyone gets. Malcolm let out a breath. That's what I thought too. But from now on, my schedule's going to be even busier. I smiled. Then I'll learn to be more patient. He took my hand. I promise. After this campaign, I'll take a break. I believed him, like I always did. That campaign lasted nearly 3 months. During those 3 months, Malcolm nearly vanished from my everyday life. We still loved each other, still texted, still called, but everything felt scheduled. 8 a.m. Good morning. 1 p.m. Have you eaten? 11 p.m. Good night. No more spontaneous walks. No more long dinners. No more lazy weekends watching movies on the sofa. One Saturday night, I was cleaning my apartment. I came across our first movie ticket stub. I took a photo and sent it to Malcolm. With the message, do you remember this? 3 hours later, he finally replied. Of course I remember. Sorry, just finished a shoot. I looked at the screen, then set my phone down. Not out of anger, but because I was starting to understand. We were trying to hold a relationship together with whatever scraps of time were left over. By early autumn, mysterious posters started appearing all over the city. No brand name, no slogan, just the silhouette of a man's back. Everyone guessed. Everyone talked. Emma at work even excitedly told me, I bet this is going to be the biggest campaign of the year. I just smiled. Not sure why, but something felt strange inside. 3 days later, Malcolm texted, come over tonight? I replied right away. Okay. He arrived close to 10. A bottle of wine and 2 takeout containers in hand. After dinner, we sat out on the balcony. Malcolm stared at Manhattan's lights for a long time, then suddenly asked, Brady, if one day the whole city knows my name, would you hate that? I turned to look at him. No. Really? Yeah. Why? I smiled. Because before the whole city knew who you were. I already did. Before the whole city fell for Malcolm Reed. I already had. Malcolm laughed softly, but there was still something heavy in his eyes. He hugged me, tightly, as if trying to hold on to one last peaceful moment. I had no idea that in exactly 1 week, New York would wake up to an ad campaign like nothing before. And that morning, I would look up and see the man I loved on massive billboards all across the city. That would also be the day both our lives would turn onto an entirely different path.